The rain had been falling for hours, tapping against the window like it was trying to get in and deliver a message no one wanted to hear. Inside a quiet apartment on the third floor of an old brick building in London, Emma sat at her small wooden desk, holding a worn envelope with shaky hands. It was unsealed, never mailed, and dated 10 years ago. It began with the words, "Dear Dad." Emma was 27 now, fluent in 2 languages, and on the verge of her first job as a translator. But tonight, she wasn't that confident woman. She was once again the 17-year-old girl who had written that letter in the dark, crying into her notebook after another argument that ended in silence. And she was finally ready to read it aloud. Emma had grown up in Manchester, raised by her single father, a quiet man who worked nights as a delivery driver and spent his days fixing things around their tiny flat. He wasn't cruel, but he was distant, always tired, always worried. Emma never heard, "I love you," not even once. Not on her birthdays, not after her mother died, not even when she won a school writing contest in year 10. She craved his attention, his approval. But every attempt to connect with him ended the same way, with him staring at the television, nodding silently, and offering only a short, "good job." When she turned 16, she began learning English, not in school, but late at night, online, through music and story videos. Something about the rhythm of the language comforted her, and the characters in those stories always spoke their hearts, even if it hurt. It was the kind of honesty she longed for at home. One night, after a bitter argument about university and how studying languages won't pay the bills, she sat down and wrote him the letter she never had the courage to send. In it, she wrote, "I don't want to hate you, Dad. I just want you to hear me. I want you to look at me and see someone trying. I want you to care that I'm becoming someone. You don't have to say much. Just tell me once that I'm doing okay." But the next morning, like every other morning, her father handed her a slice of toast, said nothing, and left for work. She slipped the letter into a drawer, telling herself it didn't matter anymore. Years passed. Emma got a scholarship to a university in London. She worked hard, studied harder, and eventually began teaching English online to support herself. Telling stories became part of her method, real stories, like the ones she used to watch. It helped her students, and in a way, it helped her too. With every story, she practiced what she couldn't say in real life: truth, vulnerability, and the courage to feel deeply. She tried calling her father a few times in those years. He was always polite, always brief, and always ended the call before she could say anything real. But last week, something changed. She received a call from her neighbor back home. Her father had passed away suddenly. No warning, no goodbye. Emma went home for the funeral. The house was just as she remembered, silent, gray, with an old smell of tea and engine oil. But on the coffee table sat a small box with her name on it. Inside, she found old school certificates, childhood photos, and a notebook filled with her handwritten English vocabulary lists from years ago. On the first page, her father had written, in shaky English, "I don't say much, but I am proud of you. I wish I could tell you more." She dropped the box. Her knees buckled. It was the first time in her life she cried, not from anger or loneliness, but from understanding. Now, back in London, she sat at her desk, the unsent letter in her hands. She read it aloud, every word, not just for him, but for herself, for the years she had lived without hearing what she needed, and for the forgiveness she could finally give. Sometimes, people love you in ways you don't recognize. Sometimes they're trapped in their own silence, and sometimes, like her father, they never learn how to say what they feel until it's too late. But Emma learned something more powerful. You don't have to wait for someone else to give you permission to heal. She folded the letter and placed it in the box with his words. Then, she turned on her camera to record a new video for her students. Today's English listening practice is a true story. A story about silence, love, and the words we carry when no one else can say them for us. Message of the story: even the words we never say shape our lives. Learning a new language gives us more than grammar and vocabulary. It gives us the voice we sometimes need to rediscover who we are, to forgive what hurt us, and to tell our story before it's too late.